Your mind has a limited reservoir of energy each day. It's not infinite. Every thought, every impulse, every distraction drains a portion of it. And when your thoughts are constantly orbiting around sex, whether it's through social media, fantasy, or casual scrolling, you're bleeding that energy into a loop that gives you nothing in return. Sexual thoughts, when unchecked, become mental noise. They don't just exist in isolation. They multiply. They compound. They start to color your perception of others, of yourself, of the world. Your imagination, which could be used to build, to solve, to dream, is hijacked. You're renting out your focus to something that leaves you mentally exhausted and emotionally hollow. And this isn't about shame, it's about attention. When your attention is fractured by urges and imagery, your momentum slows. You feel foggy, distracted, restless. You want to concentrate, but you can't. You want to move forward, but something invisible holds you in place. Now think of this. What if all that mental bandwidth was freed up? What if instead of being pulled by primitive urges, you were led by conscious intention? The same energy that fuels sexual obsession can fuel learning a skill, building a business, mastering your body, or deepening your spiritual connection. Where you focus, you feed. If your focus is on shallow stimulation, your life mirrors that. If your focus is on depth, mastery, and purpose, everything shifts. We live in an era where sexual content is everywhere, constant, instant, and hyper-accessible. You don't have to seek it, it seeks you. Scroll your phone for 5 minutes, and it finds its way into your eyes, your mind, your nervous system. It's not just a moment of stimulation, it's a conditioning mechanism. Your brain starts to crave the high. Over time, it stops being a choice. It becomes a cycle. The algorithm knows what triggers you. It learns your taste. It presents it to you with precision soft enough to seem casual, strong enough to keep you hooked. And every time you indulge, even slightly, you're reinforcing a neural pathway that says this is reward. But it's not. It's a trap, a hit of dopamine that fades in seconds and leaves you emptier than before. It dulls your sensitivity. What once felt powerful, intimate, sacred now feels mechanical, predictable, numb. You chase more to feel less. The bar keeps rising, and real life can't compete with fantasy. Conversations feel boring. People feel underwhelming. Focus becomes scattered. Drive becomes lazy. This overstimulation doesn't just affect your body. It rewires your brain. It teaches you to avoid depth, to escape discomfort, to seek comfort in pixels and pretend it's fulfillment. What used to be natural desire becomes compulsive need, and once it becomes need, it starts to own you. When you begin to step away from constant sexual triggers, images, fantasies, indulgent thoughts, you start to notice something unusual: silence. Not the kind of silence that's empty, but the kind that feels clean, spacious, focused. Your mind isn't being pulled in 100 directions by invisible temptations. It's present, it's yours again. Most people don't realize how clouded their thinking has become until they experience the contrast. When you desexualize your inner world, even for a short time, you feel it. Your thoughts sharpen, your decisions come faster, your attention stretches farther. It's not just about resisting desire, it's about reclaiming the attention that desire hijacks. There's a fog that lifts when lust no longer lives at the front of your mind. You stop looking at people through a filter of attraction. You see them clearly. You stop turning every moment into a potential fantasy. Instead, you start living in the moment as it is, real, grounded, clear, mental clarity isn't just peace, it's power. It's the ability to observe your life without distortion, to detect patterns, avoid traps, and align your actions with your long-term goals instead of your short-term impulses. That kind of clarity becomes your competitive edge in a distracted world. Most people walk around overstimulated and underaware. Their minds are noisy, not because of responsibilities or creativity, but because of unchecked cravings. Subtle, constant nagging and sexual energy, when undirected, becomes a storm. It floods the mind with fantasies, comparisons, assumptions, and daydreams that disconnect you from what's real. But when you choose to remove that noise consciously, deliberately, you start to hear your own thoughts again. Not the reactive ones, not the ones planted by advertising, entertainment, or habit. The deeper ones, the ones that ask better questions, the ones that reveal what you actually want, not what you've been trained to chase. Suddenly, you're not overanalyzing text messages, you're not scrolling for validation, you're not entering a room wondering who's watching you, who's attractive, who's available. You're observing, you're moving, you're thinking with purpose. You realize how much of your anxiety was tied to invisible performance, wanting to be seen, desired, chosen. And now, without that burden, your confidence becomes quiet and internal. Your awareness sharpens. You begin to notice what others miss. You have more time, more focus, more internal stillness. You're not riding waves of urge anymore. You're steering your own attention on your own terms. There is a silent strength in self-restraint, not the kind that's forced or fearful, but the kind that comes from knowing you're no longer a slave to impulse. In a world where everything is designed to provoke reaction, click, swipe, indulge, choosing not to obey your urges becomes an act of power. Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want. But real freedom is the ability to not do something simply because you've mastered the craving for it. That's where personal power begins, when you can feel the pull, recognize it, and still choose a higher path. Sexual urges are primal and they're not wrong, but when they drive your choices, cloud your focus, or hijack your behavior, they become a form of quiet bondage. You spend your time chasing illusions. You act in ways that don't reflect your values. You give away your dignity in moments of weakness that feel justified in the moment but hollow afterward. Self-control isn't suppression, it's direction. It means taking that raw energy and choosing what to build with it. It means creating space between stimulus and response, and using that space to choose who you're becoming. Each time you resist the urge to scroll, to fantasize, to chase validation, you're not just saying no to something cheap. You're saying yes to something far more valuable, your own sovereignty. That quiet moment when you feel the temptation rise and then dissolve because you didn't feed it, that's not just discipline. That's the moment you reclaim your energy, your identity, your momentum. The world loses a little grip on you, and you gain a little more grip on yourself. Lust is loud, it grabs, it consumes, it creates urgency without understanding, connection without context. And when it dominates the mind, it reduces people to images, roles, and functions. You're not truly seeing the person. You're projecting a fantasy onto them. You're reacting to an idea, not relating to a soul. But when lust quiets down, when it no longer leads the conversation, the glance, the intention, something deeper begins to emerge. You start to notice things that aren't visible through a lens of desire. The tone in someone's voice, the rhythm of their thoughts, the energy behind their words. You hear them instead of scanning them. You connect instead of calculating. Desexualization doesn't kill attraction. It purifies it. It strips away the hunger that demands and replaces it with curiosity that listens. You're not trying to get something from the other person anymore. You're sharing presence, and in that space, emotional safety grows. Trust builds naturally, not through seduction, but through sincerity. Most people confuse intensity with intimacy. They chase passion but ignore depth. They want chemistry but not commitment, and so their relationships stay on the surface, fiery but fleeting. But when the fire of lust dies down, the warmth of presence takes over. You begin to value consistency over excitement. You begin to crave honesty over allure. This shift transforms your relationships, romantic or otherwise. You stop playing roles. You stop attracting partners based on ego or fantasy. You start attracting and being attracted to authenticity. And that authenticity is what makes room for something real, something stable, something nourishing. Sexual energy is creative energy. It's not just about reproduction, it's about vitality, direction, and presence. But when that energy is constantly leaking out through fantasy, indulgence, or distraction, it never gets the chance to settle, to root, to grow into something deeper. It stays surface, level, chaotic, and scattered. Stillness is what transforms raw energy into refined essence. For the masculine, stillness builds gravity, an internal force that makes you grounded, focused, unshakable. Your presence begins to speak louder than your words. You no longer chase, you attract. You don't need to impress, you embody. And that embodiment only comes when your energy isn't being thrown away on every passing temptation. For the feminine, stillness opens space for receptivity, intuition sharpens, emotional depth deepens, creative flow becomes natural. When you're not performing, comparing, or constantly evaluating yourself through a lens of desirability, you start to feel your own energy again. You start to radiate instead of reach. Both energies thrive when the mind is quiet and the body is at peace. When you're not being pulled outward by desire, you're drawn inward by clarity. The masculine becomes more directed. The feminine becomes more magnetic. Instead of living from reaction, you're living from alignment. In this space, your energy isn't diluted. It's concentrated. Whether you're building something, nurturing something, or leading someone, your energy carries weight. It's not needy, it's not scattered, it's not performative, it's rooted. And that rooting begins when the noise of constant sexual stimulation is replaced with presence and awareness. When sexual desire no longer dominates your thoughts, something remarkable happens. Your energy returns to you, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The same force that once pulled you outward toward fleeting pleasure now turns inward and sharpens your focus. And focus is magnetic. When you concentrate without distraction, the things you want begin to move toward you. Most people don't realize how much time they lose chasing impulses, not hours, years lost in low-effort habits, short-term highs, and endless detours from their purpose. Every scroll, every click, every indulgence fragments the ability to stay with a task long enough to master it. Sexual distraction isn't just a habit, it's an energy leak, and once it's plugged, everything accelerates. Suddenly, your mornings feel different. You wake up with a clearer mind. You don't feel scattered or behind. Your energy isn't wrapped up in regret or craving, it's available. Your work deepens, your learning speeds up. Your habits tighten. You're no longer fighting yourself to be productive. You just are. The internal friction fades because there's alignment. You're no longer divided between what you say you want and what your behavior reflects. That unity creates momentum, and that momentum creates results. People start noticing something different about you. Your consistency, your pace, your calm intensity. You're not easily thrown off course. You don't react to every trigger. You move with intention, and that intention has a gravitational pull. Opportunities appear, resources connect. People respond to your energy before you speak a word. One of the deepest shifts that happens when you desexualize your mind is how you perceive others. Without the constant filter of lust, people stop being objects of desire and become fully human again. Their complexity, their stories, their struggles, all of it becomes visible instead of reduced to a snapshot of attraction. This shift rewires your empathy. You begin to listen more deeply, not just to words, but to unspoken emotions. You start to understand motivations behind behavior, and you respond with compassion rather than judgment or projection. When you stop seeing others through the lens of sexual hunger, you're free to connect in ways that are authentic and profound. Seeing people as souls means you recognize their full humanity, strengths, weaknesses, light and shadows. You no longer chase validation or approval based on appearance or flirtation. Instead, you engage with the person's essence. This is where true connection lives, not in surface-level exchanges or physical encounters, but in shared vulnerability and mutual respect. This new perspective also shields you from manipulation. When your mind isn't clouded by desire, you can see beyond masks and facades. You spot when someone's energy is genuine or when it's strategic. You don't get caught up in illusions or fantasies. You become grounded in reality, anchored in truth. As a result, your relationships, whether friendships, family, or romantic, grow healthier and more balanced. They're built on foundation stones of respect and understanding, not on fleeting attraction or need. And this foundation can support growth, healing, and lasting fulfillment. When you desexualize your mind, you become dangerous not in the sense of harm to others, but dangerous to the limitations, distractions, and weaknesses that keep most people stuck. You become a force that can't be easily swayed or shaken by fleeting temptations or shallow desires. Your focus sharpens, your will strengthens, and your presence commands attention. This danger is the kind that disrupts complacency. It shakes up routines, it challenges norms, it pushes you beyond comfort zones where growth happens. People around you notice this shift, even if they can't quite explain it. You stop being predictable. You stop settling for less. You become a living example of self, mastery, and purpose. With desexualization, your energy no longer leaks out in small, meaningless ways. It pools and concentrates. That energy fuels persistence when others quit. It fuels courage when others hesitate. It fuels creativity when others are stuck. This concentrated force makes you relentless in pursuing your vision. It also makes you less vulnerable to manipulation. The world tries to distract you constantly, to keep you dependent on instant gratification, to dull your edge. But you resist. You're no longer a passive participant. You're a deliberate creator, carving your path with intention and clarity. This kind of danger isn't loud or aggressive. It's quiet, steady, and magnetic. It draws respect without demanding it. It breaks through barriers without destroying. It changes your life rapidly because it aligns every part of you with your highest potential.